Welcome to the Greater Whitsunday Alliance or GW3 Vodcast. My name is Kylie Porter and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for GW3. Today's session is talking about GW3's ambitions for the region, and we're going to take a deep dive into each of the ambitions we have identified to help us achieve a very large and aspirational vision for the Mackay, Isaac and Whitsunday region. So today we're talking about decarbonisation and diversification. I have two guests with me, Stephen Boxall, who is the CEO of the Resources Centre of Excellence, and Jarrah Steen, who's the Project Coordinator for the Decarbonisation and Diversification portfolio. Welcome to the GW3 Vodcast. Right, decarbonisation and diversification. The reason why from a GW3 perspective it was important for us to highlight this on our ambition summary is because the world's changing, and in the future everything that this region does has to be looked at through a decarbonisation lens. And obviously that applies to any new industry or any new opportunity that comes to us in this region. Steve, the role that RCOE has in the region, you obviously receive feedback from major industry partners, large employers. Why is decarbonisation so incredibly important for us to be pursuing with a very singular mindset?
Well, that's a great question to kick off. I think for me, thinking about the region and the role that we've got to play, and particularly the Resources Centre of Excellence, I heard a comment which said the path to decarbonisation cuts right through the Australian resources sector. Now, for me, I think it doesn't just cut through. It doesn't happen without the Australian resources sector, and it doesn't happen without the Bowen Basin and the Mackay, Isaac and Whitsunday region. So I think what I'm seeing and hearing is that this is not something that's going to slow us down. This is something that is actually going to speed us up, and we've got a major role to play, not just locally, not nationally, but globally, in achieving, the path to decarbonisation. And without our region, a lot of this can't happen, and that's certainly what I'm seeing and hearing on the ground. There's certainly a tsunami of support coming from the CEOs of all sorts of resource companies where they're saying, just like you're saying about your ambitions, they're saying globally they're changing their business models, they're changing what they do around decarbonisation. And I think our region is the key partner that can help a lot of these organisations on their path to decarbonisation. The win for us is at a community level. So we actually shore up the economy of our region, the jobs of the future, the schools, all the facilities. So I think, there's a big challenge, but it's a great opportunity for our region.
Thank you. Jarrah, you lead up the Decarbonisation and Diversification work stream for GW3. Why have we brought two, which probably on paper seem like they could be very distinct ambitions? Why have we brought them together? So in your view, where's the synergy between those two very distinct concepts?
I guess we're looking at how do we secure our traditional industries in the future, and how do we also secure new opportunities for our region. So our economic resilience within our region is really going to be dependent on our businesses taking that journey and starting to take steps towards decarbonisation, which can be quite a challenge at the outset. So we really wanted to look at, not just focusing on this challenge that decarbonisation brings, but what are the opportunities that come with this? Because decarbonisation is potentially the biggest trend of our time, and it brings with it a lot of change and a lot of opportunities. And those opportunities actually align really well with what we already do well within this region. So we want to capitalise on the strengths that we have here, on what our businesses deliver, the products, the services, the skills that we have in region, and look at how they align to these new opportunities that are being driven by decarbonisation. So decarbonisation and diversification really provides that opportunity to strengthen ourselves and create new value streams that will drive our growth well into the future.
Yeah, so they're not actually distinct. So when you actually talk about it, in that context, they're actually they very much go hand in hand. And I think that that's really important, to keep stressing that GW3 is not about necessarily identifying a shopping list of projects which is going to drive economic development, but it's about making some really long-term fundamental changes, to the foundations of our economy, so we're set up for future success. So that's probably a really good distinction about, the way that GW3, structures our strategic plan and our work streams moving forward. Obviously, a large component of the decarbonisation and diversification work stream are some specific, project deliverables. Now, probably the biggest project that sits certainly on a GW3, book is the Decarbonisation Accelerated project. Now, that's a project that we are delivering in partnership with the Resources Centre of Excellence through funding, through the Local Buying Foundation, a local philanthropic organisation based here in Mackay. If we're to talk about what Decarbonisation Accelerated is designed to do, Boxy, why was it so important that we pursued this as a standalone program as part of our overall agenda?
Yeah, so from my perspective, this journey started a couple of years ago, and I think, starting to see those first initial shoots around where decarbonisation was going to go, we needed a platform as a region to firstly understand the challenges and opportunities, but then we needed a way that it was never going to be one initiative or one program that would help capture the opportunities and solve the problems of decarbonisation. We always knew it was going to be about a framework and how we could actually link in all the good work being done at all levels of government and across industry, how we could actually pull that together and amplify it for the benefit of our region. And I think that's really what Decarbonisation Accelerated is all about. We've used the terms previously saying what it's not, and it's not more policy and it's not more documents that sit on shelves. It's actually activity on the ground. And, Jarrah as the lead is better educated to talk about the activities, but in a very simplistic term, what we need to do is make change. And the best way we can do that is to educate people and get people on board with where the world's at, where it's going to, and the role that we can each play here in our region. So, I think the Decarbonisation Accelerated initiative, you're right, it's the biggest project in our region. It's probably the biggest project in our state that's bringing people together to capture the opportunities around decarbonisation. So, for me, it's an absolute game changer for our region. And, I can absolutely understand why GW3 has a work stream focused on it, because it is very over the horizon, but the activities we take and make today are going to define what it looks like over the horizon.
I think it was a really good segue over to Jarrah and saying that she's the expert in the field, to be able to talk about it on a high level, because it's a 2-year program. So there's obviously lots of moving parts to the Decarbonisation Accelerated project. Mm-hmm. What is the high-level intentions of that project? At a very high level, to be able to take our viewers or listeners, on a very brief journey about some of the activities that we're going to deliver over the next 2 years, what are they?
So I guess, the intention of the Decarbonisation Accelerated project is to take businesses and sectors within our region on that journey and to make it as easy as possible for them to start making changes and moving towards these decarbonisation goals. So we're really looking at high-level programs that create awareness, motivation and educate businesses and sectors within our region to be able to start making and implementing changes within their business. I think it's really important that we're proactive and that we're not waiting for regulations or mandates to come down that tell them how they need to make change within their business, that while we've got a little bit of space to breathe, we can start implementing gentle changes that make sense, that are easy, that we address the low-hanging fruit and help them to understand that awareness, so that when the changes are actually required from up the chain, they're already on the journey and know what they need to do, and they can tackle the harder things as they go along and progress on that journey. We're looking at doing a diversification strategy. So initially within the Decarbonisation Accelerated project, we're really focusing in on that met sector because we feel like the mining companies are starting to take positions on this, and we have a huge supply chain within our region, within that mining supply chain. So we want to make sure that they're prepared for the changes that will come from those companies that are taking positions. So we're starting to focus in on our met sector, and hopefully once we prove out a model within our met sector, we can lift and shift that to other sectors in our region to help them to also get onto this journey. So we're delivering a METS diversification strategy to understand how do our METS businesses have the skills, products, capabilities and services that could link into other sectors, so adjacent sectors but also emerging sectors that are being driven by decarbonisation.
So we're not saying that the purpose of this program is because we're moving away from mining.
No, absolutely not.
But what we're saying is that over the horizon, our region will need to find additional industries that are non-mining related. And if we don't start now, the journey is going to be a long one. So we need to start now and looking at diversification opportunities for our MET sector, is the first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other part that's really the cornerstone of the Decarbonisation Accelerated project is introducing a carbon reduction scheme to our region that's recognised at a regional level and helps businesses to go on that journey. So it's almost like moving towards Mount Everest Base Camp. So in the next 2 years, we're not going to get to the summit of Mount Everest. We've got such a long journey ahead of us, probably until 2050. That's how long businesses have to get to this net zero decarbonisation goal. But in the next 2 years, we want to get people well on the way to that journey. We want to equip them with the skills and the resources that they need to get to base camp, so that when we leave them at base camp, they can continue on up that summit by themselves. So that decarbonisation scheme is really about recognising where they're at, benchmarking where they're at, where they're heading, and the steps along the way to demonstrate the progress that they're making towards decarbonisation.
Excellent. So if I'm to summarise, we've got 3 main focus areas in our 2-year Decarbonisation Accelerated project. Number 1 is education and awareness. We're not necessarily going to deliver every single piece of training, or education opportunity across the region, but we are going to have a pivotal role in coordinating and also making sure that we're covering, enough education and training for the spectrum of business maturity in this space. So that's the first thing. Number 2 is we're looking at a diversification strategy linked to our legacy skills and expertise that we have in our region. So what are the adjacent complementary industries, that our skills are the perfect fit for? And what have we actually got to do to be able to pursue them over a longer term horizon? And then the third and final part is how do we regionally, credential our region? So how do we credential our region, to make sure that we are absolutely at the forefront of this change? So it's a big program over 2 years. You have a team, so you're not doing it all by yourself.
No, definitely not.
You're not doing it all by yourself. And we are introducing some new partners over the course of the 2-year program. What in an ideal world, where would you like to see our region be? So let's say we are the start of FY26. Steve, where in your mind, so we're 2 years in, where do you see us being in 2 years' time?
Oh, look, I'd like to see, with this program in particular and its focus on the MET sector, I can, quite clearly see that our MET sector in this region will be the absolute champions of decarbonisation. Their workforces, it'll be integrated into their day-to-day activities, or starting to be. So, alongside workplace health and safety and a whole range of other initiatives that are front and centre, I think decarbonisation will, there'll be take fives in the morning where they're sharing best practice around decarbonisation activities. It won't be every workshop in Paget that'll be at this stage, but I think, like what Jarrah's saying, we'll certainly be on the journey, and we'll hope to have touched a majority of people. Now, it's great to look forward, and I think the other thing that we've picked up in the work that we've already done is how many people are already doing great things in this space that, we don't have to wait 2 years to see the outcomes. They're already on the journey. Some of them, they don't even know that they're on the journey, which is great. But others have been really strategic. And just like a couple of years ago, we picked this up as a main theme, so have they.
Yeah.
So, I think we've got a bit of a head start. So, over the next couple of years, I think we can see some really significant change. We're not going to get the whole way, that's for sure. And I think the analogy about Mount Everest is a great one. We want to take people on the journey and then cut them loose to keep on going and doing whatever they need to do to get to the top. So, I think the platforms will be set, and there'll be, some people on the journey, but there'll be others that'll be able to look to their peers and go, okay, well, they're leading the way. I'm now going to get on that journey as well. So, I think our region's been, well known for its collaboration and our motivation and, wanting to be the best. And I think that'll play into our favour as well, that, we'll end up with this wave of thought leadership and industry leadership in this space. And, I think it'll set us up for success.
Excellent. Jarrah, how do people find out more about Decarbonisation Accelerated?
So they can go to the GW3 website, www.gw3.com.au, or email me, jarrah@gw3.com.au, to find out more. We will be releasing a newsletter in the very near future, so please reach out and connect with us so that we can put you onto that mailing list.
Absolutely, because I think we actually also need to acknowledge that this doesn't exist. So we are literally working in a space from a regional perspective, working with a whole industry. A program like this doesn't exist. So we're giving it a red hot go. We're starting, from the very beginning. I think that's why, the Everest example is so great. But visit the GW3 website, find out more information, find out exactly, our blueprint, where we're starting from, where we're hoping to achieve, and join us on the journey. So that's excellent. So that's Decarbonisation Accelerated in a nutshell. And we'll move on because there's other parts to decarbonisation and diversification. Now, obviously, within decarbonisation and diversification, we have the diversification, side of that ambition, Jarrah. And, because you're a multitasker, you're not just leading up one project called Decarbonisation Accelerated, you're looking at the whole bigger portfolio. From a diversification perspective, we're also pursuing other projects across the region, in particular looking really hard and have done some amazing work around the biomanufacturing space. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how does biomanufacturing and our long history as being a sugar region and a mining region, how does that actually all interconnect and come together? Because, from an outsider perspective, they actually may not look related at all. But really, there's some really serious thinking that's gone behind and some analysis that's gone behind this opportunity, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Those traditional sectors of mining and agriculture have really set us up to be able to pursue opportunities in this biomanufacturing area, which is really around how do we use feedstocks, especially agricultural feedstocks, to create new high-value products. So looking at those renewable ways of making products rather than using fossil fuels to make products. And I guess while it doesn't look like there's a connection there, it really comes down to the skills and capabilities that have been developed through those traditional sectors within our region. So we need agriculture to be able to feed in and give us the things that we can create into these new products and to feed into these biomanufacturing processes. But we also need our skills that have been developed within our mining and met sector to actually help us to run these factories and to maintain these factories. So there's a great statistic around that says for every biomanufacturing plant that we have, we'll have one scientist, but behind them we need 5 to 10 tradespeople to actually run the operation. So when you look at examples like that, these industries that seem far-reaching for our region actually align really well. And then on top of that, we need a lot of the resources and capabilities that have been built within our region. So we need ways to be able to ship these biomanufactured products out. We need ports, we need roads, we need rail, which our industries have established for us. So we've essentially got all of these capabilities that have been established that we're ready to lock into and build these factories in a way that, is just a small step.
That's right. So, GW3 has been working in this space since our inception in 2018. We're about to release a regional biomanufacturing blueprint, which will actually really comprehensively discuss and cover the opportunities, for our region in this space and what we've actually got to do to achieve it, and when we talk about biomanufacturing, particularly in our region, the opportunities are most likely to be centred in our initial phase around precision fermentation, so where we take sugar as a feedstock, use some precision fermentation technology and ferment alternative proteins out of that. So it'll be dairy with no cows, egg whites with no chickens, or again looking at sustainable aviation fuels, because there's been some really successful pilot projects that have been running across our region. So that's the initial focus of our biomanufacturing aspirations, and that's actually coming a whole lot closer, and we'll release that roadmap that blueprint in the coming months. But that's not actually only where diversification opportunities ends. If I'm to look at the Resources Centre of Excellence, the thing that probably has been most revealing to me over my 5 years with GW3 is the understanding, having a deep understanding of our region workforce skills, because you and I both had this epiphany that as we look to aerospace opportunities, particularly around the Bowen region, that a lot of the manufacturing techniques that, were being outsourced out of Queensland could have actually been delivered, through our region. And that's a great example of diversification.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a story about the resources sector has been fantastic to us, but it's almost made us so busy that we've lost our ability to be a bit inquisitive and go searching for other opportunities. And, the aerospace opportunities for our region are just huge when you look at what's happening, again, globally and nationally, and certainly in the Whitsunday region with hopefully rockets being launched from there soon. That project would not have happened if it wasn't for METS companies in the Paget Industrial Estate who have been able to find solutions to some of the manufacturing problems. Now, a lot of those people that are working in Paget at the moment, they're working sun up till sundown, just supporting the Barn Basin mine. So it's a real challenge to get people to see the diversity opportunities that are out there. But once they do, it really, switches a light bulb on. And I think we all know about the cyclical challenges of the resources sector. And, while we're in a pretty solid position now, we know that in some time in the future, there's going to be some sort of a downturn. So, what a great opportunity to shore up some diversification in your business, and what an exciting opportunity to do it in the aerospace.
Yeah, be a part of the global space race. So GW3 has four core roles. So what our job is to do is we're advocate, collaborate, connect and inform. We are never going to be the proponent of building a factory or launching a rocket, as sexy and as exciting as that sounds. But it's really about using our skills around research and analysis. So we did a huge body of work back in 2020 around identifying, the skills that our workforce had across the region. And that's really where we've been able to deeply work with organisations like Gilmore Space, to be able to say, you guys want precision welders, this is what our region has, Don't leave region for advanced manufacturing because this is available right here in region. And so that's an example of how GW3, connects our strong investment in research and analysis to diversification opportunities. Jarrah, if you were to think about some of the other opportunities, because we are looking at a specific METS diversification strategy within the Decarbonisation Accelerator project, I'm imagining that there's some sectors, some new emerging sectors which the work hasn't quite begun yet, but we know that there are some emerging sectors that are floating to the top. So I'm assuming green energy is going to be a really strong opportunity within that METS diversification strategy moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we really need to be looking at where that skill set that we have within region connects into these emerging opportunities. And I think combining, just like you said, that with with an evidence base around what are our skills and what are the opportunities that are worth pursuing, because there's such a huge pool of opportunities that are coming with this decarbonisation agenda. We need to be really thinking about and understanding and building evidence about what our strengths are so that we can hone in and pursue those opportunities, because there's certainly opportunities coming in that critical minerals space. There's opportunities coming in circular economy. There's opportunities coming in space and renewable energy, as you've talked about, mine site legacy and rehabilitation. But how do we know which ones to pursue? Because if we tried to be everything to everyone, we wouldn't get very far. So we really need those evidence bases to help us to understand how do our regional skills and capabilities align to these opportunities that are being driven by decarbonisation.
It's a beautiful segue to bringing that through, that connection about the work that GW3 leads. We're focusing on what's strong, not what's wrong. Steve, I'm going to give you a last opportunity as our GW3 guest today, just to talk about some of the horizon activities ahead for the Resources Centre of Excellence. There's possibly some misconception out there that the Resources Centre of Excellence is only about mining. So do you want to give us a really short summary about what's ahead and why it's more than just mining?
Yes, going to be very hard to do it a short one. But
do your best.
Look, we've, our name as the Resources Centre of Excellence is a challenge because people think that the resources is just coal.
Yeah.
The resources is actually, all sorts of resources. So human resources, natural resources, you name it, that's where we want to work. We've got some really great opportunities on the horizon and some a little bit closer to us. So particularly in the critical minerals space, in the circular economy space, in the mine site repurpose, reuse, rehabilitation space. But I'd probably like to just talk about critical minerals for a minute. So, that's something that we landed on over 2 years ago now, that we were going to pursue opportunities in that space. As both Jarrah and yourself have said, it's based on the workforce that we have in the region, the skills
strengths
that we have.
Yep.
Like Mackay has for many years provided coal wash plants and all sorts of other mineral processing infrastructure all over Australia. So we know that this critical mineral opportunity globally is real. We know what the demands are. I think we all know the geopolitical situations with China and, the Ukraine. I read in the media yesterday that the Middle East has now taken a major stake in Vale to secure minerals for the future. So everyone's moving in this space. We know that Queensland in particular has substantial holdings of critical minerals. We also know, though, it takes 15 years from when you find a mineral to when that mine becomes operational. So whether we can actually capture this global opportunity quick enough, I don't know. But what we know locally is that the quickest possible way to get critical minerals into the market and into the supply chain is via reprocessing mine site tailings or mine site waste. You think about the amount of mine site tailings we have in the Barm Basin at coal mines, we could be sitting on an absolute giant of a new industry that would enable us to get those critical minerals to market so much quicker. We've got the manpower, we've got the infrastructure, and our project that we're working on will be a world-first mineral processing plant that will allow mining companies to understand exactly what types and quantities of critical minerals they've got in their mine site tailings at the moment. So, it kind of just pulls together all of the thinking that, GW3 has about accessing our strengths and using our workforce. This is the absolute biggest sleeping giant of an industry with a global demand like we've never seen before. So, you overlay that in our region with what you've already spoken about with biomanufacturing and traditional industries. I couldn't be more bullish about our over-the-horizon prosperity and things that are going to happen in this region. We haven't even touched on hydro projects and so many other significant projects that are earmarked for the future, happening now. I think, we've kind of, some people might think we're this little region in the middle of Queensland, but when you really add it all up and you intimately, do more than scratch the surface, I think the future looks really good.
So a person who's picked up the Australian or the Fin Review in the last couple of days and read about everyone else who's, kicking these goals in all of these, emerging industry sectoral spaces, they shouldn't be worried, should they, about what our region's doing?
Well, I think they should really open their eyes and come and have a chat to us, because I think, in so many ways we're ahead of the game, and, it's because we've had to be. Like our region, we don't get handed anything on a platter. We've actually done the work. GW3, for example, has done the analysis behind the scenes to put us on the path that we're on. We're not bandwagon jumpers. We know where we're going and we know why we're doing it. So, I think in a very short period of time, you'll open the Australian or the Fin Review and the articles will be about the Greater Whitsunday region and what we're doing.
I don't think I can add any more value to that, ladies and gentlemen. That was just a very, short, sharp, sweet dive into our decarbonisation and diversification work stream that we're leading here through GW3. We'll be running these sessions for all of our portfolio areas, over the coming months, and release them so you can have a more detailed understanding about the work and the opportunities that are ahead of us as an entire region. Thanks, Stephen Boxall. Thank you, Jarrah, Steen. For more information, always head to the GW3 website. It's where we house all of our, latest reports and data and any releases that we have. But also, if you have any queries about the Resources Centre of Excellence, to direct that through to your team, and then to reach out to Jarrah if you want some more information about Decarbonisation Accelerated. Thank you.
Thank you.